Welcome to the new episode of the Hooligan Chronicles. And my guest today is somebody who needs no introduction because if you've been around Apollon, if you've been around me, if you've been around the gym, nutrition, then this face is very familiar to you. It's a very good friend of mine, Bryan Blackman, IFBB Pro, a member of my team, and just a great guy. So welcome, Bryan, to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I'm watching the other ones. I'm wondering when the hell my champ's going to come.
Well, you're not very relevant, as you can see. You're number 8,
That's true.
Which is not bad. Number 8, at least. Look, you beat Luke. Luke was not invited yet, and you got invited, so that should make you feel good.
I'm gonna make sure I rub that in his face.
Yeah, fuck yeah. You deserve it. But honestly, it's a pleasure having you, and obviously, I was looking forward to this. And typically, I like to say this again. One of the shows that I didn't think that I had to prepare for it because you and I always have very good heart-to-heart conversations, and sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's a lot of fun, and we bust each other's balls, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. But let's start with the basics. Who are you? Where are you from? How did you end up to be who you are today?
So real quick recap is I always tell people it's still the craziest story how it all started for me. So I was just training. Always when I first started, it was just training just because I like working out, just something I love doing it. And then people would always be like, "Oh, hey, you have a good physique, you should compete, this and that." And I'm always like, as person that just did it for the love of it, you're always in your head, as you know, once you start training, you're never at that size you want to be to try and even take anything professionally or to any kind of next level. So people would always come to me in the gym, "Oh man, you have a great physique, this and that." I'm always like, "Oh, cool, thanks. Like, I appreciate it." Just like people are just, gaslighting like everyone does to everyone. So then eventually when I started over at Zap, one of our friends, Kelly, as well as Ann, actually, were telling me, "Oh, you should go over to Apollon. You'll see one of the guys over there. You should get his feedback, let him know. He'll let you know if he thinks you should compete or not." So in my head, I was like, cool, I'm going to go here. He's going to tell me, "No, you suck." This way I can tell them to shut the hell up so I can just go back to the gym and just work out just to work out. Lo and behold, I go there, you're there, and you're like, "Oh no, you might have a chance to actually do this." So in my head, I was just like, well, fuck, I guess I have to try this now. And then sure enough, we did that first show. Won the first one, then won the second one, had nationals, and then it's just been craziness ever since then.
But I was watching today interview with UFC fighter, one of the greatest, Stipe Miocic, and for some reason when I saw an interview with him, you came to mind because it was funny because I was thinking that we have to do this tonight,
Yeah,
and he's actually a full-time firefighter. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's a millionaire, because he's a UFC champion, a former multiple champion. But throughout his entire career as a UFC fighter, he kept a full-time job. He loves he's all about his family. He's all about the normal life. And
right.
for some reason, you came to mind because I think that you're very close to that as well. The most of bodybuilders, most of physique athletes, IFBB pros, they either are personal trainers or, if they at the very top and they're making shitload of money, which is very rare, of course, in this
Right.
industry,
Yeah.
they around this, but I mean, as long as I've known you, you were about having a job, having a normal life, even when you became an IFBB pro, and I've been in this for a number of years now. So I've seen people change almost overnight by just getting a pro card.
Right.
You know, it's not like you became an NBA player. I'm not trying to downplay, of course,
Oh yeah, no,
but
absolutely.
but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep it real. And being an IFBB pro today, a couple of guys at Apollon are IFBB pros. Today you can get an IFBB pro pretty much at every gym. Again, I'm not trying to downplay the accomplishment, not at all. I think it watered down a little bit over the years because it is easier to get a pro card today.
Absolutely.
But I see somebody comes into the gym and like, "Oh, I'm an IFBB pro." I've never seen that attitude from you. You were a bum. You're still a bum.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just one of the guys. You never ask for special treatment. you walk into Apollon, and I mean, other than your synthol-filled arms, you still you're still exactly the same. And you know, I'm going to joke a lot throughout this show because you and I are friends. But in all seriousness, I have utmost respect for you, and you know how much I love you, how much I value our friendship. Was it difficult for you to remain the same guy, to be the same Bryan, and the pro status and all that didn't go to your head?
Honestly, it's almost like a double-edged sword. Because even now, I feel like I still haven't even felt like I've gotten to that point. Not necessarily where I feel like I deserve to be, where I should be, if that makes sense. It's like, okay, cool. Like, we did the NPC shows. Like, my head is like, okay, cool. We did well on the first show. And my head is like, okay, well, I did well on that show. Let's see how we do in nationals. And then we did well on nationals. I'm like, okay, well, we won that, but okay, well, I did well on nationals. I'll see how we do in the pro show. And then we did the pro show, and it's like, okay, wow, we did well in the pro show, but we need to see at Olympia how we do at Olympia. And I feel like it's just always just chasing that, like, just that carrot. So I feel like it's almost like discouraging because it's almost like keeps that, like, wow, I did something, but it definitely keeps me grounded because I never feel like I'm at that point where I can sit back and have that mentality, like, wow, look at me. You know what I mean? Because I'm not even there at that point where I feel like I should even be at that point yet, which definitely helps.
Okay, that's fair enough. And like I said, I always look at you as somebody who is super humble and you know always polite, always classy, always giving your best. Um, my question is that do you believe that it came to you too easy? Or do because some people might say, oh, it's genetics or drugs or whatnot. I mean, I know the truth.
Right.
But that there are some people who are trying to get a pro status and it takes them years, 5 years, 10 years. You got it pretty much within a couple of months.
Right. Yeah. So the only thing with that is like, it's a lot of people always see like posts on Instagram where it's like, they say overnight success takes years because that's the truth. 'Cause I started training, with my brother at 14 and I didn't start competing until 29. So that's literally 15 years of training before we even stepped on stage. So I feel like honestly, if I didn't do as well, if not potentially should have even done better than I did, it's like, well, what the hell was I doing the last 15 years of my life? It's like if I didn't like have any success after 15 years of like pretty much living that lifestyle, just completely silently, it's just but it would have been, like, wow, I probably should have been doing something else with my time.
I'm gonna go with my next question, which is, if people, you're gonna notice some interruptions. We had a bit of a problem with the audio, so we had to fix it. But nevertheless, we're gonna continue. So, Bryan, what are the main challenges between being just a regular gym rat and becoming an IFBB pro, becoming a competing athlete? What are the main changes and what are the main obstacles in that transformation into something new and uncharted waters?
Honestly, it's probably still one of the biggest challenges I'm still facing now is being able to still find the enjoyment of training. Like, when you're a gym rat, you just go there, you bullshit for a little while, you talk, obviously you train. And then when I'm training hard. You still have that downtime where it's just like after work, you're just going to the gym just to unwind and just get into that zone. Once you start doing it competitively, it's like, okay, now I'm done with my work day and I have to go back to work. And then it's, the cardio, 2 hours, the very obviously structured diet. So it's just like when you're on, it's a 24/7 thing. Like I always joke with all my friends, I'm like, I literally chose the worst, well, not necessarily chose, it's kind of fell into the worst possible sport to be a professional in. Like you see these NFL players eating burgers and fried chicken like all season long up until like the day before a game and go and get paid millions of dollars to play, and then like for us, we might have a cheat meal depending how the diet's going after 16 to 18 weeks, and then that's in season. Then your off season is almost just as structured of a diet to put on size. So it's an all year thing, even out of season, you're still in that mentality of this is my job now. Which definitely takes a different gear to get into.
Now, considering that not only you didn't have a chance to kind of really, have that gradual transformation, you went from a nobody to somebody who is a professional athlete,
Right.
but also people around you, your parents. I know you're very, very close. Family, friends. How was did it impact them in any way? How did they handle? Obviously, now you have to start dieting. Now you're in prep. Now you're in this. I mean, again, I know that you're a family guy and how close you are with your parents. Now going to family dinners, so barbecues or whatever, you can eat what they're eating. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
everything changes not just for you, but for people around you. And considering, like you said, it kind of fell on you. It's not something that you were planning, and it's not something that you were trying to accomplish for many years, like normal people do.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
how was your parents' reaction and loved ones and your friends and family around you?
Yeah, honestly, besides like everyone was really good, but like besides my parents, like I said, everyone was always the ones telling me you need to be doing this. So kind of at the same time, like everyone was like, okay, so now you're finally doing this. So like everyone's really okay with it because they're like, well, yeah, we've been telling you should have been doing this for years. So it was kind of like, even when like I remember my meals, they were like, all right, well, so now you're finally actually doing what you're supposed to be doing. I'm like, well, yeah, I guess so. I guess I should have just believed you guys earlier. But even my parents, like they came to all the shows that are local. They're really supportive. They're just happy to see me doing something I enjoy doing, and definitely, of course, as a parent, they're a little concerned about like the diet and seeing coming with that skeleton face and all those kind of things. But definitely the first time they saw me on stage with with that smile, because like especially that first show, like there's nothing like that first one where you're just like you have all the butterflies. You're like, wow, is this really something I'm supposed to be doing? Then you go on stage and not even like seeing like people out there because you really don't see anything, but just the fact you're like, wow, I'm showcasing all these years of work. Regardless, what anyone else says about it. Like this is what I've been working on with my physique, and now I'm allowing other people to actually see that. So it's kind of like artwork where you've been just like working on this and tinkering with it until you never really think it's ready, but at a certain point it's like, what, fuck it, I'm gonna let you guys see what I've been working on for all these years, and just that like smile, and that just enjoyment. Definitely, all my friends and family like saw that and absorbed that. So after that, no one really had any kind of, oh, should he be doing this, or any of those kind of questions. So everyone was kind of really just accepting and helpful.
At the New York Pro, I remember when I saw you at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I saw something that, you know, um, put it this way, it's not easy to surprise or shock me,
Yeah.
but how you looked that day, because you've done a couple of competitions that were out of town and I wasn't there, but in New York I was there, and I was there at 5 a.m. Uh, in your room, and when I saw you, I saw something that was just, it was one of the best physiques I have ever seen. It
Yeah.
was simply unbelievable. And I know how hard of a critic you are.
Yeah.
You really were impressed with yourself, with the look that you had.
Yeah.
Um, how did it make you feel after, I want to say all those years, but it's not really the case with you. But
Right.
how did you feel from that very first show where you looked incredible? And there was a small NPC show
Right.
that you won to, fast forward only what, 2, 3 years or something like that, seeing yourself on New York, in at the New York Pro, where you placed top five, I believe, and there was like what, 40 competitors, or how it is usually in New York, and
Right.
seeing that physique, what emotions were in your head? Like, what did you go through? How did you feel about it? Seeing all that hard work, again, you have God-given genetics that are incredible, but no matter what anyone says, it's like Phil Heath said at one point, imagine when you have a gift, when you have a genetics plus hard work. So I
Right.
know, I've seen you train. You really train hard. You really give it your best. So all that hard work, all that sacrifice, all that dieting, and everything you went through in those 2, 3 years, the transformation was, even for you, it was astonishing.
Yeah.
How did you feel about it?
So that was probably definitely like the first time, especially like when you came in like that morning, that early. That was probably the first time where I was like, and then actually like looking at my physique and us going over it was the first time I was like, okay, I think I actually do belong here, and this is something I can actually be, competitive at, So that was definitely just the surreal feeling, because especially just looking after the physique, just leaps and bounds of what we're able to do from that first NPC show to New York Pro. Like we were saying, like even in the room, it looked like I had ate that former self of me, and it's just like not even. And like we thought, because it was, for what it was, that was, impressive what we were able to do, but it's just not even comparable to what we're able to do, at New York. So it's just that like, holy shit, we can actually do some damage here,
Yeah, I
So
mean, you do realize, of course, that there are guys. I mean, some of them we both know, who've been doing this for years, and I mean, really years, not like you.
right,
And they were trying to break into that top five. Hell, some of them are trying to break into top 10 or top 15 for years, and they are unable to. And we can go, of course, and discuss judging, and we can discuss many aspects as to why not. I always believe that, yes, sometimes I don't agree with judging. Sometimes, it's a very subjective sport, and of course, you have judges who might look for different physiques. Somebody wants a bigger physique, somebody wants a more
a
conditioned
deeper
physique.
taper, right, yeah,
It's different. It's subjective, but I firmly believe if you were, say, third, right? Then there is a good argument that you probably could have placed first, but also a good argument that you could probably place fifth.
right,
We can easily, you always within those two, three placings range, but it's still, I mean, it's easy for me to say because I'm not on that stage. So for you, of course, even one placing is painful.
right,
But for me, as somebody who used to judge shows, and for somebody who, is a fan of the sport, it's always within a placing or two, most of the time at least.
right,
So,
right,
if you were placed 15th, no, you were not robbed.
right,
No,
right,
you were definitely not robbed. You were not overlooked. You probably could have placed 13th, maybe 12th if you're
right,
lucky,
right,
but you probably in the area where you belong.
yeah,
So again, I'm kind of like going around the same circle right now. Is that going from a nobody to winning a pro card in 3 months to getting to a pro status to doing a couple of shows where there's 20, 30, 40 guys and being top five. I know because we talked about this. I firmly believe that at least one of those shows you should have won.
yeah,
Of course, you as an athlete. I mean, we're both biased, of course, so
right, of
it's
course, of course,
it's there.
yeah,
But nevertheless, still top five is a formidable placing. It's a very, very, very respectable placing to be top five at any of those events where you have so many guys, and it's possible to be overlooked to a certain extent.
right.
Um, do you think, and I'm going to kind of, put you on the spot here,
Mhm.
do you think you have what it takes to be one of the best in the world? Meaning top five Arnold Classic, top five Olympia. I'm not saying tomorrow.
Right.
I'm not giving it a time frame. I'm not going to put that pressure on you. But I'm going to ask you, do you, Bryan Blackman, believe that you could be one day, today, tomorrow, or 5 years from now, a top five Arnold Classic Olympia contender?
I feel like if you don't feel like that, you have no business being in the sport, So I'll say for sure,
Good
absolutely,
answer.
like if you don't feel that, then why are you wasting your time and everyone else's time that's putting support into you, Like I'm not here just to, be a tourist and just kind of hang out and just kind of, fly by the wayside. Like if when I do something, it's because I'm 100% committed and I want to see, the absolute max I can do with that. Which is back to the same that kind of thing we are talking about before when, I won that first NPC show. It's like, okay, that was cool, but that means not just at the bar, the next level. So for me, even at, at the last show I did last year, Palmetto, that was that third place we came out with. I was like, okay, cool. That means, we definitely need to be, in Olympia, and if I'm in Olympia, that means if I'm going to an Arnold, I should be at least, within that top mix. Because even this year's Arnold, I was kind of surprised it was only 8. But I guess last year was kind of similar too, and definitely like the top few guys because I did DC with I can't think of his name right now. He came in second. He won DC. He came like second in Miami. He looked really good, So it's like a lot of these guys were like, I was right there in the mix with all these guys. So even if I was in the Arnold, excuse me, I probably would have been, somewhere competitive with those guys. So, it is, gratifying to see, these guys that you were right next to on stage, those guys still bringing it at that top level in the Arnold, because it almost makes like a super fan of those guys. Because like, wow, if I was right next to this guy and he was doing that, and I was this close where, like you were saying, there's placings between, like you said, 2 spaces going in either direction. So if that guy was only 2 spaces ahead of me, that means, potentially with a different judge, a different, criteria feedback, that could have been you in that spot. So it is motivating, but at the same time, it's also, like, damn, potentially you could be down those 3, so you could even be further down. So, you do have a lot of different emotions and a lot of different things to kind of think about.
It's ironic because in the beginning of the interview you said that when you got your pro card you were like, "What the fuck am I doing here?" To now saying that you could be competitive at the highest level. So I mean, it's pretty impressive to see how far you came along. And do you think that your time is being a possible, not necessarily contender for the title, but contender for a top placing at those main events? I mean, to be honest with you, New York Pro is the third biggest show, and you already done phenomenal over there. So the only two left is Arnold Classic in Olympia. Um, do you think that you still need to make some improvements, or do you think that if you jumped on stage today, you could actually give the top guys a fight?
I feel like I'm pretty much at, very similar. If I obviously like started a cut right now, I would probably be in a similar situation like last year, where I feel like I'd be leaving it too much in the hands of the judges and kind of, where their standards are. But with like a year, because definitely for me, and obviously I'd never think I'm completely ready, but even looking at like all the photos and diving more into the criteria, I definitely need still. We made huge improvements on my chest, but there's still more of that size that needs to be on there to be competitive. And that was the kind of the feedback all year long. And obviously we try and do kind of adjustments in season, but there's only so much you can do. So I feel like with a full solid year of actual letting the body grow and not be stressed as opposed to like a season, because I feel like even like the stress and those kind of things definitely inhibit your growth, 'cause you're releasing all those other hormones that are just not allowing your body to actually do what it wants to do. So it's already tough enough trying to be, more weight on your body than it naturally wants to do. Like all year long, you're already fighting, just to put on size because my frame, like I said, I'm 5'9". My standard weight should probably be somewhere closer to like 190. I keep it closer to like 220. So you're talking about 30 pounds over where your body really naturally wants to be. So every day is already a fight to try and continue to build that muscle. So I'd probably need another 10, 15 pounds of solid weight just to put that maybe 2, 3 pounds on the chest. But at that point, then I feel like we'd definitely be a lot more competitive. But then also, watching this year's, Olympia was definitely, uh, it's gratifying and for me because it kind of showed that, because I love Hendrickson, but he's just if that's what men's physique is, that's never what I'm going to be. Like he's just too dense. He's more of like that classic physique look, just with the board shorts. Where Banks, he has really full muscle bellies, but he still has that very deep taper. Like his waist is tiny. He still has the fullness on that. It doesn't look as hard in condition, which I think is more of a blend of the modern, men's physique and kind of that old school men's physique, because obviously everyone's much bigger now than they were then, but it's bigger, but still in that same kind of flow where it's not like you're just dense, hard muscle in that kind of shape where it's a more full look. which is definitely something that plays more to my body style.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're going in a slightly different direction now. I remember they've done it with women's bodybuilding at one point where I mean, women were getting out of hand bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to a point where, somebody said, okay, enough is enough. We want, a little bit more feminine look, a little bit more streamlined look. And again, I mean, I'm not gonna go and judge because everybody tries to. Everybody has their own vision of what perfection is or what a perfect physique is. Obviously there are judges who are judging and they sending a clear message. Um, with everything, typically people say, politics are involved and stuff like that, and politics are involved. Definitely. I mean, that goes with any industry, no matter what you do. And I feel like an athlete has two choices. You cry about it, or you deal with it. I don't think that it's something new to anyone, and we all adults. And but at the same time, the judges have a vision or a standard for what a physique needs to be. And I think that they definitely took a step back in physique because for 2 or 3 years the physique competitors were getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, nowhere near the level of what Sadiq used to be.
Right.
And and 6, 7, 8 years ago, it's a completely different
Completely.
standard right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Olympia showed us, and Arnold Classic, I guess, a few days ago, that I think that they're trying to go for a little bit more. I don't want to say softer look, but definitely more streamlined look and a little bit more attainable, I guess.
Right.
Because it seems like the physique competitors were getting close to classic physique competitors.
Absolutely.
So it was getting to that level. And I remember you were telling me, I need to get bigger, I need to get bigger, I need to be bigger, and you were right. You needed to get bigger,
Yeah.
because you were just not competitive on certain level. Today, I think, in my opinion, you are extremely well. You definitely can compete with the best of them. Again, I'm biased, but at the same time, I'm trying to be a little bit more, not just positive, but looking at it from a perspective of, let's see a clear picture what the judges want. And I think they sent pretty clear signal as
Yeah.
to what they want. And the top five guys at the Olympia and Arnold, and I watch it because of you mostly, is and I see, you can stand on stage, in my opinion, with those guys. I think that it's definitely time. And that brings me to the question is, are you planning to grow a little bit more and you're trying to improve certain areas of your physique? Do you have a definite plan as to when we can see you on stage, or you're taking it day by day right now?
Of course, I always like to come and at least with some kind of plan. So I'm definitely focusing a lot more on chest just in general, because the problem for me is like if I have like just we'll say like a 2 3 month off season, I can definitely put some size on my chest, but that's always soft tissue. And for us, we kind of know we have to go in with with just a really hard diet for me to get to that condition level where we need to get to. And unfortunately for me, that means losing some muscle, and that always means losing that newest muscle first. So it's the thing we need the most is always the thing that goes first when we start getting really towards that crunch time. So then we're just trying to patch things together to try and you know overcome those things, as opposed to already having that solid base, and then when things kind of come at us we can kind of you know make easier adjustments. So it's once we can get that chest to really stick, I feel like that'll be a good time. Plus, a little more density in the back. 'Cause I'm just glad, after last season, we definitely know how the diet has to work, which is awesome. Because obviously that takes time, and it's kind of a blessing instead of blessing and a curse for us, where we only did a very few amount of shows for us trying to figure out what works for my physique. We're just literally just guessing, and obviously educated guesses, but at the end of the day, we're just guesses, just try and hope for the best outcome, and then kind of just making notes from there, as opposed to like you said, wise compares to doing it for years, where it's just a part of the process at that point where they know exactly what they need to do and they have books because they've been doing it for years, as opposed to us, we're like, well, fuck it, this might work. Let's try this. And then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I feel like at least now we have definitely have that part down. So I feel like the last kind of piece of that puzzle is just bringing up a couple of those lagging groups. This way, we would go into that cut. We're 100% on.
Okay. In fight community, among fighters, it seems like there is a great camaraderie where, fighters support each other and they help each other. I mean, they punch each other in the face, but at the same time, they like really supportive. And it's like a community. And for most part, at least from what I know, they're pretty nice. How were you welcomed, especially once you broke into the top five in your recent competitions? Obviously, becoming a contender, a top guy in those shows. How were you welcomed by the veterans, so to speak, in IFBB pro ranks in physique bodybuilding community? How did you feel about that? Did you feel welcome? Did you feel supported, or was it more like very egoistic, where everybody's for himself?
Surprisingly welcome, because honestly, like, the very first show I did, obviously I didn't expect anything, because like there was just this new guy out here. Why the hell would anyone, talk to me, don't have like kind of like that footprint, that basing or anything, but then obviously, when you start, I don't even necessarily just being in top five necessarily, or, how well you do. It's more so just being there, and it's you build that camaraderie, not as far as just, oh, I've seen you on Instagram, or, just showing up. It's when, those everyone sees you in the hotels, everyone's getting their meals at the same places. So, you have conversations, all of us, day to day, we have obviously very similar backgrounds. That's why we have the same passion. So that part is pretty cool, being able to build those relationships. But, at the end of the day, we're all direct competition with each other too. So of course, there's a little bit of, all right, let's see what this guy got. But that's just part of it. And that's honestly, and it's to a fun extent, not like oh, like, look at this guy. Like it's a good time, especially like when you travel, because you can kind of hang out with, the competitors after, before, kind of pick brains on see what things work for them. So it's been a pretty welcome thing, which was very nice to see. Because I wasn't sure how it was gonna work out when I actually got there. Because honestly, it's definitely way more welcome in the pro league than the NPC, unfortunately, for sure.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. One of the aspects of bodybuilding and physique and classic physique, obviously, in sport in general, is dieting. Um, do you? I've seen some people who actually can diet with absolutely no issues. It's actually easy for them, and no struggle whatsoever. It's almost like even off season, they actually prefer the diet food to burgers and pizza and whatnot. Getting ready for a show for 12, 14, 16 weeks and whatnot, especially the way you did. I think you dieted for like fucking 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, I mean, I'm not gonna ask was it easy because I know the answer, but mostly not about whether it's easy or hard, mostly psychological. What how it impacted you as an athlete, as a person, your personal life, etc.
So the biggest thing for me is, unfortunately, like, I love carbs. Like protein, obviously I'll eat it. Like, I love like a good steak and things like that. But pasta and rice, things like that, I absolutely love. So of course, for me, I'm very carb sensitive. So it's I usually have to be 2 months at least on almost zero carbs from a grain source, which for me is definitely the hardest thing. So I'm not a very big eater, so for me, the earlier parts in prep where it's just cutting back on food, that's easy because I never really have like a huge appetite like that anyway. But once we cut out like the carbs and like even like the sweet potatoes and things like that, that's when it really starts to hit me, and that's when you start to see like the mood, just because you don't have that glucose energy anymore. So you just your brain starts to get a little hazy because you don't have the same sugar levels that your body is normally running on. That's pretty much when it mostly starts affecting me, and then obviously after that competition day, where you're really exerting everything you have, and then if you have to go right back into a prep where you're again still on no carbs, like yeah, you have like that one refeed day, so you feel good that next day or so. But once that's gone, now you're also depleted from the last competition. That's when you're really, getting in there. And last year was our first year. We did like an actual like gauntlet where we did, it's like four shows, pretty much back to back, where it was just from 8 weeks out before the first one, no carbs, to pretty much no carbs all the way through the last one. Obviously, minus like refeeds and things like that. But that was definitely probably the hardest thing. Like I said, especially like you said, I have a regular job, so trying to stay focused, with what I need to do, for my actual living, and make sure I'm still on top of my game there, so I don't have any issues with work, so I can still be able to, pursue and chase my dreams. You got to try and find that balance of what you do with your time, because you'll have so much energy, especially when you have your regular job, you have your hour of cardio in the morning, then you have your hour and a half, potentially 2 hour session, and then more cardio at night after work. While you're on no carbs and trying to stay focused, sometimes can be definitely challenging for sure.
So would you say diet is the most challenging thing during a contest prep?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because like the gym, like yeah, that's tough to do, but I just get into the zone and I'm just training, But you're constantly in that mindset when you're not just eating. And that's why I love about this. That's why I first started training, because it'd be okay, cool, whatever is going on in the day. I was go to the gym and I'm not thinking about any of that. And even though, like I said, now when I'm training in the competition, it kind of feels like work. When I'm actually training, it's not, because I'm just in the zone. But it's the diet when it's a constant reminder all day, when your energy isn't there and that focus isn't there. It's just it's on the fore part of your brain all day long. So, and that part you really can't turn off, because if you turn that off, then it just ghosting and just coasting through, and that's when you start making mistakes. With work and with your prep and things like that, because it kind of just zombie mode at that point, which is dangerous.
Every year we known for it now. It became kind of popular. We do the All Star Seminar at Apollon, and athletes from bodybuilding, from fight community, from everywhere, they gather together, and we put on a panel, typically 10 to 15 athletes, and we ask them questions and whatnot. And I remember the first year that I put you on a panel. I mean, you've done three, I believe, if not four so far. The first year that I put you, you were really bad at me, because you were like, what the fuck am I doing there? And it's been three or four so far. How do you feel now on the panel? Do you still feel like, what the fuck
Feel
am I
the
doing?
same way. What the fuck am I doing? Like last year, you had Ronnie Cole. Like, what the fuck was they doing sitting on a panel with Ronnie Cole? Like, what the fuck?
Well, I have news for you. 2023, you're going to be on a panel again.
I think I'll be sick that day.
It's okay. I'm going to send Lee Priest to get you.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. I don't need that.
I honestly think, you know what, in you know how it is. We obviously know a lot of athletes. We interact with a lot of athletes, and you and I, we were always honest with each other. And I remember there was a question raised, especially first time, what the fuck is he doing there? Why is he on a panel? And you know what? I get very defensive when it comes to my family and friends, and obviously you're one of them, and you know that. I'm pretty sure you feel that.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you. I felt a little bit defensive, and I felt a little bit, I would say, aggravated by that question. I felt like, what the fuck. But then I kind of thought about it, and I was like, okay, it's maybe inappropriate to ask, because you shouldn't be asking me who I can invite to my house.
Fair.
But
Right.
at the same time, I can see your point. Is why is this guy on a panel? He just turned pro. He doesn't belong, because you're friends, or because helping him with his contest preparation. Um, you know, that's probably the reason why he got there. And the truth is, it's true. That's exactly the reason why you were on a panel.
Right.
You're representing our brand. You from our gym. You're my friend. You're somebody who, I never say you my athlete, because I hate that word. I hate that expression. So, and I don't do contests. Perhaps I'm helping a friend. I'm helping a friend. It's team effort. So yes, but we get together for your shows together. We're doing that. So yes, that was the main reason why you ended up on a panel, and you knew about it. It
Right,
wasn't
of
like I
course.
wasn't trying to sugarcoat anything. You know
No,
me by now.
yeah.
Not my style exactly. But now it feels different. And for those that will question maybe once again why you're on a panel, you are no longer a rookie. You are not a top 15 or happy to be here athlete. You're actually a legit top 5 competitor. You earned your status. You earned your right to be on a panel. And I know what you just answered the question before I even asked. Basically, that it still feels exactly the same.
Yeah,
What the fuck am I doing here?
yeah.
Do you think for those kids that are in the audience, for those that are trying to maybe accomplish what you accomplished, because you have accomplished something, you're no longer, again, you're not a rookie. You have accomplishments now. Um, do you think that you're a good role model?
I think I definitely, I hold the sport into, a high regard into my personal life. So, even when I'm just, out and about, I, like you said, just me personally, I'm not like, oh, look at me, I'm an IFBB pro and just, an asshole, I still go about my training the same way. I, always have people come up to me, oh, you're a big guy. I wonder, what should I do this exercise for this? So I'm always, and that's always just been me personally, just as as a human, not as an athlete, or oh, I need to do this for Apollon, or I need to do this for the pro league. It's always just been my passion, for in my personal life. So being able to share a couple words or part of my own experience, doing things like this, even on podcasts where people can have a little more insight if they care to even hear it, about me personally, and things like that. I love being able to do. So I always feel like, obviously, not comparing myself to any of these top guys, but it's always like really interesting where they'll go back where it's like years and years ago. They just have this conversation with people, and they were like, "Oh shit, wow!" Like '80s, obviously '80s Ronnie Coleman was a huge guy, but no one was like, "Wow, this is Ronnie Coleman," the greatest bodybuilder in the world. They were like, "Oh wow, this is huge guy at the gym." We just had an awesome conversation. So I kind of feel like it's that kind of same thing where it's just like, I'm just a regular person, but someone that has, a little more knowledge than, an average person in the kind of field that I do love.
I mean, and again, you've done the All Star seminar with a bunch of athletes, from the sport of bodybuilding. Who were you surprised to see the most and interact the most? And um, who are you? I mean, you're probably going to say Ronnie, but
It's
yeah,
hard not to, man. Like
yeah, it's
I
probably
love
gonna.
everyone we met, like Branch, everyone we met that we were able to work with are all awesome. But it's just, something about that guy. Just even now, you can just like I can't even imagine what it must have been like to see him, in his prime. Because even now, he's just an electric person just to be in his presence. Like you feel like you want to do better just because he's in the room. So it's like, yeah, it's a surreal feeling just to even be around him.
I remember that. I actually remember it very well. And when we had Steve Lorius at the gym for the seminar, and I remember when I said, you know what, I challenged everybody to a pose down, and I made everybody take their clothes off, and you were basically next to Steve Lorius, and you got pissed that you're gonna have to pose against him. But I also remember like there were a lot of photos you posing next to Steve Lorius, and Steve Lorius obviously was one of the top contenders. I mean, superstar of the sport. And here you are. I think you just turned pro, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't even think you made your pro debut yet.
No, no.
Um, you posed, and I remember I showed you the pictures that somebody took, and I still remember how you said, I don't look bad. I'm actually,
Yeah, Rob, make sure you post that in a snippet right between this section
yeah,
right here.
you were, how, how impressed or shocked were you that standing next to such, I mean, again, superstar of a sport, you looked, I remember you were in off season, but you always pretty lean even in off season, but you
Right.
were holding your own against him. And did it make you feel a certain way that, okay, there is a hope for me, I'm not just a bum who got lucky, got a pro card, and I'm just happy to be here because I'm standing next to such a formidable athlete, such serious competitor,
Yeah.
and I'm holding my own.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So I still, yeah, like you said, I'm sure you distinctly remember that too. I specifically remember seeing that picture first time, and it was definitely like, oh, okay, maybe, like you said, maybe we do have a shot of actually, being able to do something here.
Not taking
Because
anything away from Steve, of course,
oh
but
no,
I'm
no, it adds to it because it's the fact that wow, I can see myself at obviously not then, but at some point, continuing to continue with the process to be able to even, to even think about being able to compete against was enough motivation for me to really be like, okay, we really need to double down and really, focus and and try and see where we can take this. So
so it
yeah, I'm
did
so happy with
motivate
those
you.
pictures. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I definitely understand your sick madness where I knew exactly what the hell you were doing. And I hate you for it and I love you for it.
um, you know what? And speaking of posing, you and I took a trip before you started your tour of competitions. We took a trip to Steve Weinberger to that Francis Powerhouse gym where you had to pose for him. And I remember you were pretty nervous about it because, I set it up where you would pose and he would literally, Steve is very, very, he's a straight shooter. He is
Right.
like me. I mean, if he doesn't like something, he will fucking destroy you.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of athletes, people in general, they love compliments. Nobody likes to be criticized. Nobody likes to hear where, oh, you're liking this body part or that body part or conditioning and whatnot. And I don't remember how far you were from a contest, to be honest, and it's irrelevant completely. But I do remember that Steve actually gave you props. He actually said certain nice things about you. He also criticized a few body parts or posing or whatever. So I remember it was a mix of the good and the bad, but and he delivered it in a very professional way.
Always, yeah.
Um, and I remember that you were pretty nervous coming to Bev Francis, and posing for Steve. Um, what did you take from that, posing for, Olympia head judge and, East Coast chairman? Um, did you enjoy it? I mean, in terms of like you got something positive from it, in terms of like something you could learn from? Were you upset, pissed, or maybe even let down as to, okay, I suck, I should never step on stage because Steve just ripped me apart, which he didn't. He actually didn't.
Right.
I think he, if anything, he gave you compliments. I think he did point out to your chest, if I remember correctly,
Yep.
and
Yep.
maybe said something about your posing or presentation.
Right.
But tell me about that experience, how it made you feel, and how that impacted you moving forward.
So that was still like, and I can't thank you enough for even setting that up. That was definitely like one of the top, things I've ever had the ability to do. Because like, like I said, I just was just training just because I love doing it. So like I would be watching, all the old movies. Obviously when the first Generation Iron came out, like I saw that in theaters. And like all the corresponding Generation Irons where you see, Steve, critiquing all these guys, and that's why I was just like, wait, I'm about to go to this guy who critiques Phil Heath. I was like Kai Green, like obviously in a different category, but like he's seen all the best, literally the best physiques ever, and I'm about to go and ask him what he thinks about my.
And get slaughtered.
Yeah, exactly. So honestly, him even not just destroying it was I was over the moon to it, because I was expecting to be there, like, yeah, work on this, that, come back, potentially we can see where you're at. But the fact that there was even a couple parts where it was like, okay, this is you're getting there was, like I said, another gear in that cog for me to be like, okay, yeah, this is something we need to continue and press forward with for sure.
Okay. So you would say that it was definitely very because you expected to be criticized and probably like destroyed.
Oh yeah, I was expecting to just go down there, and I was expecting again for it to be like a conversation, which I thought we were gonna have when I first started. To be like, "What the hell did you bring this guy over here for?"
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you something about. I typically like to ask this question, especially athletes, bodybuilders. So back in the day when I was young and handsome,
What
uh,
are you talking about? Look at that face. Look at that face.
there
Look at that
is a
face.
reason why I like you. Uh, you know what? Back in the day, athletes, IFBB pros, would get sponsored by companies. In some cases, we're getting paid shitload of money to promote supplements and clothes and this and that. Today is no longer the case. It's very, very different. In fact, to make some serious money or even some money is not very easy. It's you have shitload of influencers, shitload of NPC competitors, great looking, and having phenomenal following and whatnot, and just the whole industry in terms of sponsorships and everything, it changed tremendously. You're obviously part of the newer era. um the reason why I asked you, and so I guess I'm going back a little bit right now, when we talked about why you on a panel at the All-Star seminar, maybe 3 4 years ago, maybe that question was relevant. It's still my fucking show, so I do whatever I want. But
Right.
again, to play devil's advocate, maybe that was relevant. Today, it's no longer relevant. You belong on that panel, you earned that right, and everybody who knows you, all of us are extremely proud of you. That's the reason why you're doing it back to back now for the third or fourth year consecutive. But last year, and he knows about this, there were raised some questions about your friend, my friend, also Team Apollon um, personality. Look, why is he on a panel? He's technically not an athlete. And I remember when it came up, you came, of all people, you came to his defense and you were defending him ferociously, making an argument, a very good argument, and you were very passionate. You were really, really, I mean, I know Luke's going to listen to this, but you were a great friend. And you argued Luke belongs there, he needs to be there. And you said some words that I'm not going to repeat because they were very flattering for Luke. So fuck him. I'm not going to give him the enjoyment.
Exactly. Let him
You
wonder.
know,
Let him wonder.
but in reality, you made a very valid point. Even you made a better point than I did as to why he belongs on that panel. And once again, in 2023, he's also part of the panel once again. Um, I mean, I know you do think that he belongs there. How would you explain that right now to people as to the industry as a whole changed? Why would somebody like Luke Elsman, who is not a bodybuilder, not a fighter, not a power lifter, technically not a competitive athlete, but a gym pro, somebody who is just does TikTok videos? I mean, he's pretty popular and known.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah.
Why is he on a panel at the All-Star seminar with all the athletes? And I would like that answer, and I'm being that serious right now because I think it's a very, very serious subject. And to the athletes and knuckleheads out there who think that somebody like him perhaps doesn't belong, I would like that to come not from me, but I would like that to come from you as an athlete. I mean, I know that you're Luke's friend, but at the same time, as an athlete, why do you think Luke belongs on All Star seminar panel among some of the greatest athletes? The stage is
Yeah.
yours.
So first and foremost, I'd say, any of these athletes that are, that feel that way, I would say, send him a message on Instagram and invite him to do a training session with you. Then see how and see how you're doing after that session. Because I don't know if you've seen his regular videos. He trains just as hard, if not harder, just as strong, probably stronger than a lot of these athletes, that I've competed against, and not just in the gym. So if you're talking about just, the time committed to the gym and his physique, that is bar none. Like he's every time I'm in there, obviously he's the second hardest, but He's the second hardest guy in that gym training that day. And it takes just as much, honestly, if not more focus to be able to build that base on social media. Because honestly, obviously as an athlete for me, trying to be able to also do that, for the brand awareness as well as, the personal awareness out there in that world, I've just, kind of stepped my toes into that wall, I'm doing my training and working. And so I have that clear path of what it takes to get to that level where he's gotten. And it is just a tremendous amount of work that would have to be done to get to that level where he's at, which is exactly why he's been given the opportunities, which are more than well deserved for him. Because it's the sport has definitely changed. Back then it would be all the top guys would be in the magazines. That was it. Everyone else just followed those guys. Now it's about who is making that impact in that realm of social media, and to make that you have to be in there daily, multiple hours a day, creating content, editing content, expanding, meeting new connections, meeting other influences and all that. So I feel like I said, it takes just as much effort. It's just in a different avenue than obviously what most athletes would just be able to do in their main focus of prepping for competition season.
So you would say that among athletes, some bigger stars, some smaller, some but basically IFBB pros and pro fighters and powerlifters, you do believe that somebody like Luke Houseman belongs on that panel.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's just as much time, and you're giving just as much, if not more so, notoriety to that brand, which is at the end of the day what you want. You want it to continue to grow. Because if it's just this thing is going to disappear, because a lot of these athletes, including myself, don't have the biggest following on social media. So if that was something that just continued to diminish, you wouldn't be competing anymore because it's not making money. Like, you need everyone out there pushing brands, pushing the awareness of fitness to continue to get everything moving in the right direction. And hopefully, at one point we'll be able to get, bodybuilding and more competitive sports like that into a more streamlined, aspects. It's, you go to the Arnold Classics, you go to these conventions, and yeah, it's a bunch of people there, but it's still such a niche market. Like, you go out and talk to a regular person, you ask them who Ronnie Coleman is, 7 out of 10 people
Unfortunately, right. No, you're definitely right. No, I agree with you 100%. Changing gears a little bit, we know Bryan Blackman, the athlete. We know Bryan Blackman, our friend, Team Apollon athlete and whatnot. Tell me, in your, apart from the fact that you have a full-time job and, you doing bodybuilding, and when you're competing, you're getting ready for shows and spending time with family. What do you like to do for fun?
Honestly, unfortunately, it's not very exciting. I'm a pretty boring guy. Like, I just love training, and honestly, for me, like, I am a homebody to the max. Like, if I don't have to go out besides for training, I don't really go out. Like, I love playing video games. I binge video games and movies and shows. So that's why I always love watching all your posts for a new movie to watch, because I love just being able to, same thing as with the gym, where it's just that escape from just the regular grind. You get that same effect from like a good engrossing movie or a good series that you really can escape in that world and just be away for a while, which is nice. So I've been watching, obviously binging The Last of Us, which obviously I don't know if have you been watching that one on HBO
No,
Max?
not yet. I'm waiting for them to have the entire season. I know it's amazing. I just want to make sure that I watch all at once.
So next week is the last episode.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna watch all of it. I heard it's phenomenal.
Oh, phenomenal, man! Absolutely. Oh my god, yeah, that show is
Yeah,
Every
I can't
episode
wait.
has been just. Like
And I heard that they already have the second season coming. They already
Oh
announced.
yeah, oh yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. But you know what? I mean, in reality, Um, Back in the day, I used to like going clubbing and partying and all that and chasing girls. Sometimes they were chasing me, which is not that bad. But
See, honestly, when you get over 190 pounds, it's not really that anymore. It's just
yeah,
guys coming up to you into the clubs. Wow, you look great, great arms, bro.
but you know what? I feel like I want to ask you this because I think you what you 30.
32, man. Yeah,
32. Okay.
32.
It's still young. I mean, you are young. You got a pro card. You have a great physique. You have, again, a job and bodybuilding and whatnot, and you're busy. So it seems like when you're not busy, you're pretty much a homeboy. You like to stay at home. You like to watch movies. You like to play video games. Do you
Absolutely.
think because we've seen guys that, getting pro cards at the age of like you did, 27, 28 or whatnot, very young. And as soon as they get pro cards and they have these great physiques and stuff like that, they go out and they party and, they use it to their advantage, of course.
Right.
Do you feel like maybe you missing on something, or maybe missed on something? You don't feel like you're going to regret that maybe, a portion of your life, in your prime, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I actually
Yeah.
like it because I love to watch movies and do nothing.
Right.
But do you feel like perhaps, because obviously you're interacting with some of the IFBB pros and some of the guys in your division, do you feel like you're perhaps missing out on something, or you are genuinely happy with your life?
So, during, like I said, so obviously, like when we're competing, and obviously, that night, if you're away, you're gonna go out. So I'll go out and it'll be fun just to hang out with those guys. But I'm just watching everything else. I'm like, yeah, this is just not what I want to be doing, like at all. Don't get me wrong. I love having like a good beer, but I'd much rather do that with like a couple friends over, playing some video games, just bullshitting, eating pizza, or like playing poker, and just have a couple beers there. Because even like when I used to go out, I'd be just with my friends anyway. So for me, it was just like, what the hell am I going out? Potentially getting in trouble, potentially getting pulled over doing something stupid. When I'd much rather it's the same people I'm hanging out with out there, just in a different environment where we're kind of detached from all those other things. Which for me, I'm for sure much happier with. And then also like I am a introvert to the max, so for me, not having to talk to people I don't already know is much more comfortable than having to go out and having to interact and do all those other things. It's just not for me.
Now I can see why Jessica likes you. For those that don't know, Jessica is my daughter, and she doesn't like a lot of people. But Brian is actually one of her favorites, and now I can see why. Uh, um, Brian, I mean, what can I say? I mean, definitely, I want to thank you for the interview because I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, obviously, a lot of things I've known, but you actually also, let me on certain things that I didn't know about you, and I do greatly appreciate it. But before we wrap up, I wanna ask you, what are I know you're trying to get better, obviously, and stuff like that. Do you still have aspirations to climb all the way to the top, or do you wanna, you don't wanna predict anything or set like certain goals or whatnot and kind of go like step by step, or you still have that goal to reach, you know, the Olympia or the Arnold Classic or certain titles, or maybe perhaps getting a pro card and getting top five and and taking your physique to where you took it so far. Do you think that maybe that's as good as it gets, or are you still as what I'm trying to ask you? Are you still as hungry as before, and you still have aspirations to climb all the way to the top?
I definitely feel like we have one more
Unfinished
good.
business.
Yes. 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 Where we're like I said, for that last competition that we did in South Carolina, we were there.
I
Um,
mean, let's not kid ourselves. We both believed you should have won that competition. We believe that wholeheartedly that you should have won. But I guess, so did the guy who plays second and fourth and fifth.
exactly.
That's the nature of it. So it is what
Exactly.
it
But I
is.
mean, more so to the point where not to take anything away from anyone else, that gave me that fuel for myself to be like, okay, yeah, we definitely are in a spot we need to be in. With a couple of improvements, will just be undeniable. Which is for me, that is that fuel I need to know that there's no doubt in my mind if we make these couple improvements, within this year, there's no question we're not coming out and being at Olympia. And for me, just getting to Olympia is just like just to go to Olympia is dumb, which is why for
And
me
I agree with you
personally, I'm
wholeheartedly.
glad
I
they got rid
hate
of the
when
point
people say
system.
that. My goal is to go to the Olympia and just to be, oh, I'm happy to be here. That's an accomplishment. That's not an accomplishment to be that
No,
last.
no. So that's why me personally, I'm glad I got rid of the points. You should have to win, you know. So I love the fact that I feel like with this year, like I said, in my mind, there's no doubt we'll get there, and there's no doubt in my mind we'll be competitive there as well.
So it seems to me like you're not kind of laying the blame on the judges or that you got
No, not at
screwed or
all.
whatnot.
No, no.
What you're saying is that this is pretty much like like the
The
fight
kick in
game
the ass I needed
boxing.
to really be like, okay, now we need to really step up even another gear, which, back last year I didn't know I had until, after that, and I had time to reassess and be like, you have that time for actual self-reflection and be like, yeah, those parts we're talking about that were lagging, they were lagging and they need to be improved, and we will come back with those. And like I said, just be undeniable.
So your goal is not to be competing and leaving it in the hands of judges, but in the hands of judges, your goal is for a knockout where you're undeniable and everybody's fighting for the second place.
Exactly. I'm going to be on that show list where people are like, fuck, he's going to be there at that show. Well, I guess we'll just get ready for the next one.
A couple of years ago, I mean, a long time ago, probably we were talking, I want to say maybe, I want to say 2003 Mr. Olympia. That's what I want to say. Because that specific Mr. Olympia where Ronnie came guns blazing. I mean, he was always dominant, but in 2003, he just brought something to the table where everybody went like, what the fuck is that? And I remember the prejudging was in the morning that day. It was at 12 o'clock. And then everybody went to the expo for, to hang out. And then the final was at night, same day. I remember that specifically. I'm pretty sure it was 2003. And, in the top five, you had the usual suspects. You had Dexter Jackson, you had Jay Cutler, you had, the same crew. And I remember going to the show, to the expo after the prejudging, and we are walking at the expo with Marina, and we are passing by Dexter Jackson, who was again in the top five.
Yeah.
And they asked him a question. Again, it was a long time, 20 years ago. Somebody asked him a question, either who's gonna win or something like that. And I remember him looking and saying, "Did you see Ronnie?" He says, "The show is over. We all competing for a second place." And I'll never forget that because, like I said, it wasn't an interview. It
Right.
wasn't a statement for a magazine. It was just a regular conversation. Dexter Jackson was in one of the booths, whatever company he was representing at the time.
Right.
And we were just passing by, and I guess one of the fans, because he had a line of people there were, for autographs and to take a photo with him and whatnot.
Right.
And somebody asked him, "Who do you think is winning?" "Oh, good luck," or and maybe even said, "You got this," some shit like that. People like to say stupid shit. And I remember Dexter really made that face. "Did you see Ronnie? We all competing for a second place. The show is over." And I thought, politics or not, no matter what, there is a time where you look so good that just no politics, no funny business,
Exactly.
not anything can deny you your placing. It's a fucking knockout. And I remember the very same thing happened with Lee Haney. That was before even my time. But I remember that story very well, where Lee Haney was with Weeder. He was with Weeder, and he switched from Weeder supplements, Weeder Nutrition or whatever,
Mhm.
to Twin Lip. Twin Lip was a big, 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 major money supplement company, and Lee Haney signed a contract with them. When he signed a contract with them, everybody was saying there is no way Lee Haney's going to win the Mr. Olympia because, he's no longer with leader. So, he's not winning because it's all politics and whatnot.
Right.
And he won. He won. He won. And again, I'm not
Right.
defending right now judges. I'm not defending IFBB. God knows, people can go back and see I was very critical of a lot of things that they have done or, how they handle certain things. I'm not a fanboy. I'm not associated with them, not affiliated with them whatsoever. Last show I judged was, I believe, in 2009. I do understand its business also. I understand all those aspects. But the reality is, and you're 100% right, if you fucking look the best, really the best, not questionable, not can go either way, not anything, but you fucking look the best, then you're gonna win. And that brings me to this is actually interesting. That brings me to brand of the year. I remember talking to Shane Smith, who is the owner of Stacked, and before we won, when he told me in a conversation, that Apollon can be a contender, I was like, get the fuck out of here. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Then he goes to me, why not? I'm like, because we're a small ass company, we can't play with the big boys. You want to tell me we're going to beat fucking Ratcon and Salucor and Optimum Nutrition and Ghost and all those fucking gigantic companies? I mean, that's not realistic. He goes to me, why not? If you do things right and there is no denying you, you release new products, you innovate, you stay consistent throughout the year, you're doing everything by the book and, to keep
Completely
going.
Transparent with everything.
Yeah, transparent with everything and everything is done right. He says where there is no denying you, then yes, you can win. And, I tried that theory and it worked. It worked and we did win. We won twice.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah. So it just goes to show that I feel sometimes where, yes, sponsors and advertising and politics and maybe personal views, it might influence the judging. It might, I'm not saying it does, but it might help certain athletes. But again, it's not going to help nobody from 15th to being first.
Exactly.
Maybe it's going to help from second to being first or something like that, or from first to being third or some shit like that. It's not going to be like completely ridiculous. It might, but at the same time, you cannot use that as an excuse. You can't, because you're setting yourself up for failure. You just gave yourself an excuse that I'm not winning this show because I'm gay or I'm black or I'm white or because the judges are sleeping with an athlete or somebody paid somehow. You just made a number of excuses that you don't even know.
You don't know. Yeah.
You don't even know. But you set yourself up for failure and you don't even notice how you're cheating on your diet. You don't even notice how you're cheating on your supplementation. You don't even notice how you're cheating on your training. And at the end of the day, you lose a show and you're saying, well, of course I lost the show, because the winner is boyfriend of one of the judges or some shit like that.
Yeah.
It can't be that way. Make sure that you leave no stone unturned. You give not 100%, you give 110%. Yes, shit can still happen. It's called life.
Right.
But like you said, you go for the win and you go for a position where where the judges, anyone, cannot deny you being the best because you are.
Exactly. And then that is the most gratifying, because when you're up there and at that point where, like I said, even I think me personally, I haven't been to that point yet where I've been like, fuck, I'm on right now, to like that degree. So even if you don't get it, there's that self-satisfaction of knowing you are literally, peaking at your absolute max, and that I feel like would just be, just as much of a pleasure thing as anything else, as far as acceptance and feeling good with what you've actually done.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. So on this note, Bryan, I want to thank you for the interview. I want to thank you for your friendship.
Yeah.
Jordan, thank you for being who you are, for representing our brand, with class, with dignity, with respect. I can't wait to see what you're gonna bring next time you step on stage. I know we're gonna do our absolutely best to fucking
Absolutely.
smoke the Bryan from last year. Because that's
Absolutely.
that's essentially what we have to do. We have to destroy you.
Yep. Exactly.
We can only compete against you.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
and I want to wish you continuous success, much luck, and success, because you're really one of the good guys and you deserve nothing but the best. And if there is anything Kay, all of us, Apollon family can do for you, we're always going to be there. We love you, we respect you, and can't wait to see what's next.
Oh yeah, man. I can't wait for when, like you said, when we go back on that stage. Like I said, it's going to be completely undeniable, and I can't, say thank you enough to all of you guys for how much you've done supporting, and your guidance and everything you guys have always just continued to do. Just the love every time I'm at the gym, just like especially in the off season, we have time to just bullshit and like talk, just to be behind the desk and just
Have
talk to you
fun.
guys. Yeah, just have exactly.
Hey, no, I
It's
appreciate
something
it.
that's
I
truly
can't
special.
wait. And again, thank you so much. Guys, thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. And on to the next one. Thank
On
you.
to the
Take
next.
care. Bye.
Take care, guys.